go through this thing, and then later on is when you had wished that you had done it, but then it's kind of late, right? So
Yeah.
like 10, 20 years down the line, you're like, man, had I known, I would have done this. And that's the part that
Yes.
it's really what caused me to do what I'm doing, right? Because you want people to kind of see what the roadblocks are and avoid the mistakes that you made. It's like, don't do this, right? This is the path you want to follow, all right? And yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's true. Like, I got to a point, I was like, I need all the money, and you are trying to take part of the money but maybe I'll say I didn't really have that education very well.
Yep.
And I'm not talking about when I was young. I'm talking about when I was grown up. So like the starting point wasn't like great for some of us. But
Mhm.
I mean, there are people here who work in the banking industry. I know some of them right here,
Mhm.
not necessarily here in the US, but like other part of the world and all that. Some have worked in like the insurance industry, and they know how to grow money through that, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I realized that it's the same thing here, but
Okay.
two things in this part of the world, it's the same thing but just different naming or different coding. And
Mhm.
sometimes in this part of the world, things are like super stable a little bit compared to other part of the world, but the principles are still the same,
Yep.
right? The principles are still the same, when it comes to growing of the money, right? And when we talk about, like, I know things like mutual funds and some of those
Mhm.
things. Do you have an idea a bit on how those also can help people grow their money in a way?
Yeah. So if you want to talk about mutual funds, the S&P 500 is a type of mutual fund.
Is a type of
Right.
mutual
So
funds. Okay.
what it does is that it tracks the 500 of the best companies in America, right? So some smart person, sat somewhere and basically created an index, right? So he created like a chart or like a group of stocks that says, okay, these are the best companies in America. And the good thing is that, every period or so, they take the worst companies out. So they're literally doing you a favor, right? So they've already done it for you. All you have to do is buy it. There are also mutual funds that track like a specific sector in the market. So maybe finances, right? They're gonna track financials, consumer discretionary, right? Healthcare, energy, right? So whatever that you like or whatever you've researched and believe this is the sector that I want to be in. Of course, in my opinion, I think you should start with the S&P 500. There's also something called the total stock market index, and this tracks all the stocks, right? But if you look at the numbers, the S&P 500 has done better than the total stock market. Usually S&P is around 10 to 12%. The total stock market is around 8 to 10%, right?
10%. Okay.
So a mutual fund is definitely I'm definitely for it. I tend to be a little bit of a risk taker, so I like single stocks. I mean, look at a company like Netflix, you
Mm-hmm.
know, company like Nvidia. I mean, if you see what Nvidia did over the past 5 years, and I happen to be in the stock, right? Excuse me. Some people were like poo-pooing the stock. Oh, they're not going anywhere, and they were literally, they were on the sidelines when the stock was going up, right? And now it's so hard to get in, right? This actually is a great time because the stock I just checked, the stock was at $109 now. It's still cheap, in my opinion. So those are ways to grow your money as well, in addition to mutual funds.
Okay. That's very good information also. Good knowledge also right there. Now, I don't know how you want to tackle this, but before even I ask that question, like, most of us don't know that, and that's what I've come to realize. I mean, here in the US, every single thing that is you can buy is may probably be on the stock market. Any single
Exactly.
thing that you can use at home or you're using at home can be on the
Hmm.
stock market. So it can be a mouse like this, obviously
Yep.
Apple. It can be water like this. There is a stock for that. Um, to the extent that it can go a very long way. I even got to know recently, like, there's even police brutality stock.
Yep.
that
Yep.
people make money when people are being put in prison. It blew
Exxon
me.
is a stock that the body cameras, right? So that's a stock that it blew up. It blew up even after Trump got in office, because now they're saying he's going to be a law and order, president and all that. So now people are just buying it, and it's around $500 now.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I mean that's so true. But another question that I also have for you is people that live outside the US, if they
Mhm.
want to tap into some of these things to invest and grow the little that they have, are there some ways that that you can also share with people to look into?
I think from what I know, there's a brother, Hans Boateng. I'm not sure if you
Yeah,
know.
Hans. Yeah, Hans talks about stocks a lot,
Yeah, so he's
in
actually
Bitcoin a lot.
we actually went to the same college.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
Oh,
small
okay.
world. And
Yeah, I think
and
it was in Ghana recently with some. They have like a crab Bitcoin
yes,
thing, or there's a name
yes.
for it. Uh,
He's very big on Bitcoin now. I mean, that's and which, I'm for it. I just don't think you should have Bitcoin as 100% of your portfolio.
mhm.
Crypto is here to stay, right? And we know about all these companies.
Yeah,
MicroStrategy literally has, millions of Bitcoin, this is $1 billion company, right? Even all these other hedge funds have Bitcoin, right?
yeah,
So Bitcoin is definitely a great way to grow your wealth. I probably won't put all my eggs in Bitcoin. If you want to go upwards to even 20% of your income, that's fine. But from Hans, I believe he's mentioned that there are ways for you to invest in the US, buy funds in the US. And I'm not sure the exact technicality of it. You can probably work through a bank in Ghana or whichever country
yeah.
that you are to invest in the US stock market, right? I believe also even in Ghana, there's a stock market that you can invest in, right?
Yeah, I think I've heard of few of them. I don't know how their growth rate really looks like.
That's the thing. It's like you don't know the rate that they grow at and how trusted that it can
Yeah, the
be.
trust, man, is the
Yeah,
trust.
I remember what is it? Is it the what was it Namwan? I remember this whole issue with the gold and all that, right? But probably you shouldn't. So there are a lot of pyramid schemes out there, and I think you just got to trust your gut. Like if something doesn't seem right to you, you shouldn't put your money into it. And then whenever you see a lot of people going somewhere, that you should probably go the opposite way, right? We know about the narrow and straight way, right? And then the broad way, that's for everybody else, right? So getting into even being a Christian is like you have to vet things, especially investments, wherever your money is going before you put your money into it. I think if you're in Ghana, I think real estate is a great way to really invest. That besides the stock market, because it's in a way it's stable. Right. And you can trust it. Because the stock market, to be honest, I don't know the growth, of a
Mhm.
lot of these, the stock market in Ghana. I can't speak to it. So I would say real estate, Bitcoin, those are a way to save your money, right? And maybe starting a business, right? If that's something that you've been looking to do. I just
Yeah,
recently learned of this gentleman who had his 40th birthday. I mean, he owns all these franchises and all that. I mean,
yeah, a lot of
really impressive.
businesses.
Yeah, that's impressive. I think that's a great way to make money. You start a business, the money that you make, you put it in real estate. I mean, you can't go wrong, right?
That's true. Like, make somebody said real estate is the only estate that is real. So, so
Ah.
yeah, so you kind of have to find means of like uh jumping into that. And I
Mhm,
also realized that even in Ghana, there was one that a friend was sharing with me. Um, he came here actually for a conference and a real estate conference. He said he started something like that almost in Ghana where they call them like Mikasa, where they
mhm,
bring um, realtors together, they bring agents together, and there's a dimension of the thing where you can invest in rental properties without you just like the way we have it here. So he was talking to me to like look into it, that kind of a thing. But I feel the information to really go into the thing is a bit limited. So you have
mm,
to do the digging of the information yourself
Wow.
For example, the
I think that's
Bitcoin,
what they're talking about is more like a REIT, so
a
real
REIT.
estate investment
Good.
trust.
That's the
Yeah.
word.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's
you can, which, there are a lot of REITs in this country.
yeah.
Simon Property Group, that's one of my favorite REITs. I mean, they own all these big malls that you go to, these luxurious
What's the name
malls.
again? Simon
Simon
Property Group,
Property Group. So it's SPG is the ticker
SPG.
symbol. Yeah.
Okay, I'll take
Um,
note of that.
yeah,
SPG. Okay.
even Vanguard has a REIT ETF, and it's VNQ. So V like Victor, N like Nancy, Q like Queen. So that's a REIT ETF, and you can kind of just look through the REITs and then pick whichever one you want, or you can just invest in the ETF by itself, right? But I think that's a great way to invest. You have to vet it though, because the REITs can go out of business. All right. So
Mm,
that's one thing you gotta be
have to be
you
careful
it
about.
can get
Wow.
dicey, and you have to vet them, make sure it's someone that you can trust. I mean, if you lose your money, you lose your money, right? So,
I know,
yeah,
right? I
yeah.
know. That's powerful. Okay. So we almost done with this conversation. I know it's very short, it's straightforward when it comes to money. And if you have any questions, please quickly put it in the chat so that I can ask Dr. Charles. My next question will be what habits or mindset shifts have helped you build wealth in whatever direction that you're trying to take yourself to? What are some of the mindset shifts that you actually made that really helped you?
So that's a very powerful question. So the first one I would say is that paying off debt does not make you rich or wealthy. Just focusing on debt, and to be honest, I mean that's why I started because one day I think I just, of course, it was just a day it had been building on, and I just got sick and tired, of the situation that we were in. I spoke to my wife. I said, you know what, we got to do something about this, right? And my really, to I guess to say that, being a little selfish, like I wanted to buy a property. I wanted to move us out of the apartment lifestyle. I wanted to get a home,
Yeah.
right? When I researched and looked, at what we needed, a good credit, right? Some down payment,
Hmm.
I saw that we didn't have that, right? So went online, did a bunch of research, and I landed on Dave Ramsey's website and
Okay.
watched YouTube, binged it. So I was just die hard, I want to be debt free. I want to be debt free. But then just reading and then looking at other people who were in that space, I realized that just focusing on debt, you're gonna pay off all your debt. Now you're back to zero. Now you have to start all over again.
Mm,
Right? You did, and remember the concept of compounding. It takes time. So
okay.
if you're not investing while you're paying off debt, you're really just getting back to zero. You're still gonna end at zero. But if you invest while you're paying off debt, you're not getting to zero because there's some money that's working for you,
Yeah.
right? So don't focus on debt only. Of course, there's some debt that you got to pay off. I mean, when it comes to credit card debt, I mean, that's the worst form of debt you can have, right? So the rates on credit cards is like 25 to 29%, even upwards, above 30%. So it's hard to make that in the stock market or real estate or Bitcoin. I mean, so focus on credit card to get rid of it, right? But then after that, when it comes to student loans and your mortgage and things like that, don't rush to pay those off. Invest,
Mm,
invest, invest some of your money, even as you're paying off the debt. Another thing is that you also want to have an emergency fund. So you want some money somewhere that you're not using for investing, right? You're not using to pay off debt. You're not using that money is your insurance. So it's just sitting there. I know you're not making anything on that money, but that's your insurance. You need that because then you will be able to sleep at night. You have this peace of mind that if something happens, God forbid, I can tap into this amount of money, use it for whatever I need. A tide blows out, you're able to fix it, and life goes on. Right? At the end of the day, life goes on. Right? Even if you're struggling, life goes on. Right? So you kind of put that as insurance. So you secure yourself, right? Before now you can just put whatever money's in the market. And it also helps you keep the money in the market for compounding because now you don't have to go sell whatever that you have in the market or in real estate to use for an emergency, right? So you're not. Charlie Munger said something. He said, "Never interrupt the power of compounding too soon. Like, don't interrupt compounding too early because Unfortunately, you need the money to grow. So 10 years, 20 years, that's when you start to see the real impact of compounding. But if you put it in within the 2 years, 3 years, you take it out. I remember my when we were in Ghana, my mom came back. She opened, bank accounts for all of us, put a little bit put a little bit of money in there. And I think it was just a couple of years, and then we went in and we squandered it. We took all the money out. And I think she was like, what are you guys doing? At least let the money grow a little
Grow
bit.
a little bit.
The savings account. We're like, hey, we need the money right now. Like the thing I said, you want to go and spend the money, but we have to be, there's something called delayed gratification, right? Delay that gratification, that dopamine hit, you get the money, you go and blow it, sacrifice something, right? And put it to work. And you'll see the power of it. You'll see the
Wow.
power of it.
That's a powerful statement when it comes to um, mindset shift. Being able to invest even whilst you have debt, and don't
Mhm.
only focus on debt, also focus on investing a
Mhm.
little bit more, um, so that in case you need the money, you can tap into it. Um, I think that also brings my mind to something interesting, right? Uh, Containing one of the statement that you made earlier on, areas when it comes to investing, and I'll definitely ask that question. But I have another one here. What's one common financial myth people need to stop believing when it comes to money?
That's so many, brother. That's
Few of
one.
them, one of them, two of them.
One is that only rich people can invest, or you have to make a lot of money to invest. All right. We think that you have to be making 200,000, 100,000 before you can really invest. Like I said, that example I gave with the mail worker, I'm sure they didn't make more than 60, 70K a year, but they sacrificed something. All right. They were able to put something in it. And the power of this is that you automate it. You just let that thing go. Right. So you have a specific amount is going to this account, and you can automate it. Okay, it goes to this account. I want you to buy this specific investment for me with every paycheck. And I do that with one of my accounts. It buys the S&P 500. Every paycheck, 250 goes in there, buys it. So this is you basically buying $500 every month.
Every
Right.
month, yeah,
I don't touch it. Even if your account goes negative, let it be negative.
yeah.
You'll get it again. So treat investing like a bill. Because if you got to pay a light bill, you got to pay a light bill, right?
Treat investing like a bill. I like that.
Like a
Yeah.
bill. You have to force yourself to do it because at the end of the day, nobody's coming to save you. You don't want to be going to beg someone when you get into trouble. If you have investments, you can sell some, use it for whatever you need if you get an emergency. And I think I will leave with this one. One thing that has been like really popular now is this, whole life insurance, IULs, and all that. I'm sorry, but I'll be the bearer of bad news. The only person that's getting rich is the one selling you the product.
The product. That's
The
interesting.
one selling it to you is the one is one. Think about it. They make 80% to 100% of the premiums for like the first year.
Mm,
Right. And I don't mean to if you if you sell life insurance on this platform, I'm sorry. It in a way, it's like if you know what the product is and you understand what it's doing, you won't sell that product.
mm,
And I know people in the church who's doing this, and I'm like, do you understand the product that you're selling?
mm,
Like literally, it's a high fee product, right? It's a high premium. Someone's paying $700 a month, barely investing in the stock market or anywhere else. Putting 700 in this product, the face value, I don't know, a couple hundred. But when are you going to see that? You have to pay into it for 5, 10 years, right? Whatever loan that you take out, they'll take it out of the debt benefit, right? And if you want to take your own money out, they charge you interest. That interest goes to the company. It doesn't go to you.
mm.
So who are you really, who's benefiting from this other than you? The person that you're selling that product is not benefiting. You're actually hurting them. And I know a lot of people think they're really, in their mind because that's how they were sold on it, right? So in their mind, I'm helping these people because these people have no other way to make their money grow. That's in your mind. There are ways to grow your money.
Mm,
right? Not an insurance. Insurance is insurance. Keep insurance and investing separate. Insurance is for you. God forbid something happens, you die, your family gets that money, right? Health insurance, you get sick, you go, they treat you, right? Home insurance, something happens to your house, you pay a deductible, they fix it. That's what insurance is for. Insurance is not an investment. Let's be real.
mm. Wow. Insurance is not an investment. So those two are like two separate things.
Basically, yeah, two separate things. You can have two separate things at once and understand both, right?
Okay. Okay. That's a very good information also there. Maybe the last one before I let you go. I know you have a lot to also connect to and do. Um, Maybe one or two uh biggest money lesson. I was talking to this um um guy here. He was white guy actually, and I
Mm,
asked him, "How old are you?" And we're talking about just age, life, and all that. And he mentioned his age, and I'm like, "Okay, do you invest?" And he said, "Yeah, he does like various types of investment. He has his own business and all that." I'm like, "What is the biggest investment you've made that have really made you money?" And there he paused. The biggest one is not one that he did, but one that
mm,
the parent did for him. And I was like, hold on. In fact, he said one that the grandfather was doing for him.
mm.
I was
So
like, okay,
it's two generations.
yes. And I was like, okay, what is it? Then he said he was buying him investments or stocks in WWE, World Wrestling Entertainment. So
Yep.
I checked this age and I checked mine and I calculated mine back and I'm like, yo, at
Mm.
that age, I was busily after Sunday school. I come and sit me on my TV and I'm watching what. So whilst I'm watching it, somebody's
Somebody, but that's the thing, though. It's not fair, right? So
you know,
you didn't have that opportunity.
somebody I calculated, and up to now, you say sometimes like dividend comes to his address, like
Hmm.
as a check for him to
Hmm.
cash out. That really
Hmm.
gave me a wake up call, you know. But hey, God being so good, some of us are gradually catching up. And I really agree with what you said earlier on, like taking a little and putting aside and investing some. I have a particular small account that I woke
Mm,
up recently and I realized that I had um, roughly around like $500 in the account. And I cast my mind back because I made a point that every 2 weeks I'll put $5 there. Not
mm,
even every week, 2 weeks. I'll just
mm,
put $5 there. 2 weeks. Then I did it every 2 weeks, I'll put $10 there. Then I
mm,
did every 2 weeks, I'll put $15 there. So I capped it at $15. Just 15, not even $20. And I checked and I'm like, wow, this is huge, you know. But I really agree with what you said. I mean, my final question to you then will be done. Let me see. Would you consider pulling equity from your home to invest? Do you think
yeah.
that's a smart move? Okay, that would be the final question. What do you think about that? And we should be done.
That's an interesting question. I mean, it's risky, all right? Let's be honest. But I didn't do it for the sole purpose of just pulling the equity to invest, right? I have a HELOC, and I can post it if I see an opportunity, right? Like a stock like Nvidia. If the stock were to go to $80, I would probably take some of my HELOC money and put it in. If Apple were to go to, let's say, $100, I'll probably do that, right? I think it depends. It has to be a really, really good deal. Just like how you can pull a HELOC and buy a property, right? Put in,
Mhm.
maybe you use it to buy a property, outright, and then, rent it out. It's a way of building wealth, right? But it has to be a stock. So I preach buying quality stocks. I'm
Okay.
not saying go and buy Joe Schmo stock. A stock that a lot of people sleep on is Costco.
Mm,
Costco trades like a mutual fund. It's basically like a mutual fund. Because think about it. What the Costco has about, so not to be long with and extend this thing, they have 4,000 products in every store, right? And of course, it's geared towards the market. So let's say they're in Florida here, they know stuff that this population around these people like. If you go to Miami, they may have some products that they don't have at the one in this one. You go to New York, they have products that, right? but because they study the market, they know what people want, right? So that stock, Costco is around $930 right now. One
Mm.
single, I bought Costco when I believe it was like $400,
Wow.
right? The stock grew, I believe it grew to like $600. I don't know what happened to me. I sold the stock. I was so mad at
I
myself.
know what happened to
It's
me.
like, what the heck? So when it came back down, I went back and, owned up to my mistake and I bought it again. I said, what was I thinking? You know what I mean? I think there was some news or something came out and I was like, these people may not make money. Let me go into more tech, right? But that's a stock that I will probably own forever, to be honest. If I sell it, I will keep buying it, right?
Mhm.
But to go back to the equity question, I think it's very situational. You have to be know that this is a stock that you really, really believe in, right? I wouldn't just take equity out to really go and buy the S&P 500 because if you look at it right now, rates are like what 7%. S&P will return maybe 10%. So that 3% difference, I mean, is that worth it? So it has to be something, it has to be a really, really good deal.
Okay.
That's what I would say.
Wow. Anyway, thank you so much, my brother. I think you've really dealt with the topic, and it's one of the things that you can't or we can't finish talking about it in
Mm.
a day. We may probably have to we'll do a part two of this.
But
Yeah, we'll
sure.
do a part two of this where we'll also go into more specific areas that will be a blessing to everybody. But I hope few of the questions that I just asked him, we've learned some. Somebody said, I want part two. Okay.
Oh wow.
Few of
Okay.
this, I believe, will be a blessing
Mm.
to everybody. And when it comes to money, we'll be doing the sessions, and definitely we'll do a part two. Um, my last question to you, my
Sure.
last question, if there's something that you would like to teach your young self, I know you're going to
Mm.
say investing, but how would you advise, or would you advise your young self when it comes to money and how to take the subject of money?
Understanding the concept of compounding, right? And really learning the basics when it comes to money, right? So like I said, those three things about money, right? You make money, you can invest it, you can give some, right? And you can spend some. So maybe really understanding, like really taking those concepts to heart, budgeting my money. Like, I mean, I remember when I was a teenager in New York, Queens, New York, you make a couple $100 every week. I remember one summer, I'm sure I made like $5,000.
Mm,
What do we do with that money?
blow it.
We would go in line for Jordans, wait for the line, get to the line, and go and give them $200 of your hard. I mean, that's hard work, right? Because now, I mean, I'm a physician now. How hard is this job? Talk to a patient, get a diagnosis, give them some medicine or something. You are done. Somebody gets a heart attack, I go and I put in a stent, is open, they go home. To me, I mean that's not hard. You sweeping on the floor, you putting books back, you frying, flipping burgers. That's hard work. And
Yeah.
then that's when we were rather abusing the money,
Mm,
right? We had no respect for money. So yeah, I would say respect money, right? Understand, get wisdom, right? Get that knowledge, get the wisdom about money, right? Of course, you need the leadings from God, right? But get connected, right? Pray more, seek the face of God. Because believe it or not, those things go hand in hand. I
yeah.
think my faith has made me a better investor, now than before when I first started, right?
Oh.
Because now I know I make some money, I tithe, I give some of the money to the church.
Mhm,
And every year as I budget, I look at my Excel sheet, I give more every year than the
mhm.
previous year. So if as you're making more money, you are giving more away, right? You're getting more connected to God. It's a beautiful thing,
Wow.
and you think God will not preserve what you're doing? Come on. All right.
Definitely. No. He would definitely preserve you, would definitely preserve what you're doing. Man,
No.
that's a very good lesson. I have picked up very important points in there. Wow. Anyway, thank you so much for everybody that came up. Thank you, Dr. Charles, for coming up to be a blessing to us about the subject of money. And I think our part two will be on compound interest. I think I just picked that up real quick. How,
My
how to, yeah, your favorite. Okay, you see, so that would be the part two. How and I think compound interest work across anywhere in the world. It doesn't matter where.
Friendships, marriage, money, parenting,
Wherever
every.
you live, compound
Yep,
interest
yep.
works everywhere. So that would be the part two part of today. We only scratched the surface of every bit, uh, every bit of everything. And I know part two will be on compound interest, and we'll go deeper. Man, thank you so much for coming up. Really
You're
appreciate
welcome,
this.
brother.
For
You're
those of you that just joined or you've been on here, it's been on money, just like we pray about it, we have to talk about it, we have to discuss it, to learn more about it, and don't give up in making your money, in making of money, let me put it that way. And whatever money that you make, just like you said, learn to invest some.
welcome.
uh, Find out ways that you can invest some, find out ways that you can get some, um, to people, to be a blessing to people also, and find out how you can also enjoy some. But
Of
before you
course.
do the enjoyment, uh,
Make sure
invest
you
some, save some. In
somewhere.
fact, make some, invest some, save some, give some out, and
Uh-huh.
enjoy some. Yeah.
That's right. I like that
Thank you
also.
so much.
You're
I
welcome.
really appreciate you for this. God bless you. Bye
God bless
bye.
you.